Welcome to Tony Martignetti Nonprofit Radio coverage of the NextGen Charity Conference 2011. We're at the Tribeca Performing Arts Center in downtown Manhattan, and joining me now is Craig Newmark. Craig is the founder of Craigslist and CraigConnects. Craig, thank you for taking time today.
Hey, I'm glad to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. CraigConnects is a fairly new venture, but you and I talked about it on the show maybe 6 months or so ago. How has it been evolving?
It's been working out pretty well. On a personal basis, it's helped me focus what I want to do in the sense of what causes I should be supporting, what groups I should be supporting in support of those causes, that kind of thing. It's helping me better understand how to really do an exceptional job of supporting some specific nonprofits, also finding ways for nonprofits to help themselves with the eventual aim of getting very large numbers of people connected through social media.
All right. And so what have you been learning from the personal perspective in terms of how you should be and how CraigConnects should be supporting nonprofits?
There's a bunch of small lessons.
Okay, sure.
One of the most difficult is I've been finding ways, quiet ways, to get people in the same space, nonprofits in the same space, to actually talk with and work with each other.
Yeah, collaborate.
That's been a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
I've also realized in a deep way how difficult it is often for small, effective nonprofits to be really bad at getting the word out about themselves, since often they don't know how to deliver a good, tight elevator pitch. And that's a bit of a computer industry cliche. Nevertheless, they need to be able to talk about themselves and real quick and tight.
So how is CraigConnects helping with that collaboration and also helping nonprofits deliver their own message?
Well, in those specific examples, it's mostly me speaking directly across people in different groups in terms of what they're doing. I've devoted most of that energy to groups which support military families and veterans. But very recently, and I really mean last couple days, I've been starting to devote that now intensely to groups who believe in the future of journalism, and that one way to restore trust to news media is to start checking the facts again.
So you mean investigative journalism?
Investigative journalism plays a role, but the idea is that often a politician, for example, will make a statement to a reporter. The reporter will know that he's being lied to, and the reporter should have, within relatively easy reach, someone who's checked the facts and can then challenge the politician as needed.
And in terms of nonprofits supporting themselves or really helping themselves to convey their own message, doesn't necessarily have to be an elevator pitch, but conveying a cohesive message. What is your advice there, and where you see shortcomings?
Well, basically the idea is that a speaker on behalf of a nonprofit or pretty much any organization just has to clearly identify what they're doing and just try to get it out there in about 45 seconds and then keep repeating until they can do that. If they don't know how to, they need to ask someone for help in terms of that. The Craigslist Foundation, in fact, does teach that in its boot camp, but that's only available maybe once or more a year. The idea is it's a matter of applied common sense. If you're doing something and if you're good at it, you just have to be able to boil it down and to articulate the gist of it really fast and then know when to stop talking.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I was going to ask you something else, but now you had just said know when to stop talking. Overselling can be a problem.
Yes, it's quite possible that I've just spoken with some folks who had difficulty knowing when to stop, difficulty knowing when to know when they were overselling something.
Okay. And so how do we, I don't know, do you have any advice about knowing when to stop, or should we be practicing this in front of others, or how do we stop people?
I'd say practice in front of people who will be slightly unkind to you.
Okay.
Because you need friends who are good enough friends to let you know what you may not want to hear.
Yeah. Don't we learn a lot when we're challenged, when we're told, that's not quite right?
Sometimes the only way you learn is from people who like you enough to tell you when you've gone a little too far.
Yeah.
That applies not only to speaking, but in my case, my sense of humor.
Okay. All right. I won't ask you to try it out, but no, but it's absolutely true. We do learn when we're challenged, and challenged in a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So CraigConnects is focused mostly on aid for military families. You mentioned there are other categories of nonprofits.
Sure.
All right. Yeah.
CraigConnects is working more than in any one particular area with military families and veterans, but there's also areas like water and sanitation, microfinance, peace in the Mideast. One big area just beginning to be explored is helping out those groups which measure the effectiveness of nonprofits, because there's a lot of nonprofits who do a lot of good, but there's also a substantial number of nonprofits who tell a good story but never really get anything done.
No outcomes. Yeah.
Another area is this whole idea of restoring trust to the news media by restoring fact-checking. I mean, I'm not in that business, and I'm not going to tell them how to do their job, but I want news I can trust again.
Mm-hmm.
One area unannounced on the site is voter protection. There are people actively seeking to disenfranchise various groups, young, old, Latinos, and other minorities. We're in America, and the effort to disenfranchise people needs to be stopped.
You mentioned the sites or the organizations that evaluate charities or rate charities. That's the GuideStar, helping groups like GuideStar, Charity Navigator. Is that the population?
That's exactly right. GuideStar and Charity Navigator have been around a long time. Mm. They're good at looking at financial effectiveness. They're moving towards measures of accountability, transparency, and then eventually measuring just how good a charity is at serving its client population.
I've had Ken Berger on the show, the CEO of Charity Navigator, and we've talked about Charity Navigator 2.0 and then what's coming in 3.0, the outcomes assessment.
That's the deal. Now, for the here and now, there's something called greatnonprofits.org. That's user reviews for nonprofits, kind of like what Yelp does. That's a here and now, and I really do encourage people to look at it and then to write in their own little reviews of nonprofits they know something about.
For charities listening, if they would like to, if they feel they fall within the missions that CraigConnects is working with, how do they go about getting your attention?
Well, if you go to CraigConnects.org, there's a Connect link, and that's how to submit something. We need a little bit of a break because we've been successful enough to be overwhelmed with requests.
Okay. And let me just, in a closing moment, ask you generally, what are you planning to share this afternoon with the NextGen audience?
Okay. Basically, common sense stuff. They've asked me to talk about things I've learned doing Craigslist and CraigConnects that may apply to people in general, like. The Craigslist business model ultimately is doing well by doing good. Mm-hmm. It meant that when making it a new company, I decided to step away from very large amounts of money. Not altruistic, it just means following through with stuff I already believed in.
And another founding principle, I think, of Craigslist is just simplicity. Can you say a little about that?
Well, yeah, in sites or in presentation or anything, people don't really need the fancy stuff. They need something which is simple and fast.
All right. Craig Newmark is the founder of Craigslist and CraigConnects. Craig, thank you very much for being a guest.
Thanks. My pleasure.
It's been our pleasure having you. This is Tony Martignetti, nonprofit radio coverage of the NextGen 2011 conference at Tribeca Performing Arts Center in New York City.